All right. Hey, welcome to the Go4Ceo channel, ladies and gentlemen. I have an incredible guest today. All right. You are not going to even believe some of the energy, the power, and it's about to go down, excitement. My man, it's another gentleman that I've met from Clubhouse. And, it's all about CEOs, founders, entrepreneurs on this Go4Ceo channel. And we're teaching you from people that are doing it. Now, this guy is everywhere. We just talked about it offline. He talked to me about being on multi-channels. He's an author of a book, Work Like an Immigrant, getonmorestages.com. He's just everywhere. So I had to have him on the Go4Ceo channel. He's one of those personalities that's bigger than life and super excited to have him on. So thank you, Carlos, for coming on. How are you today?
Hey, my brother, I am phenomenal. It's such a blessing being here. It's I love being around others who are out there bringing so much value and helping others, my friend. And I love every time that I hear you on Clubhouse, you're always dropping bombs and just adding value, and you bringing that love. And it's the ping pong effect. Like this has been like one of those weeks. And people listening to us right now, it's it's times where everything is going amazing in your business and you have so much success. But then you get a call, like I got a call a few days ago. One of my uncles, one of my favorite uncles, man, just passed away, and now my mother's not feeling so good because, she was very close to that brother of hers. And then my other uncle, her older brother, is also on ER right now in critical condition. And she just lost her father, my grandpa, 3 weeks ago. So it's like, it's like life. Things you're going to be having this momentum in life where everything is amazing. Your clients are happy, so much success. Everybody's making money, enjoying the family, but then it will knock you down. It will knock you down. And sometimes those disgraces, they happen like back to back, but you just have to know and remind yourself. A lot of the CEOs over here, you know what I'm talking about. That pressure from the board of directors, sales teams are not performing, COVID and closures and all that stuff. But you know the drill. God would never put us through something if he doesn't think we can handle. You feel me? But
I love it. I love it. I love it. Well, look, Carlos, one of the things that we love to do is just have you share, how did you get to the point of the ideas of your business, and you have a pretty intriguing business, very much on stage, and some of the things that you've developed, courses and a book and all that type of stuff. But tell us a little bit about kind of the beginning stages of, hey, how am I going to put this business together? What is my talent that I'm portraying out in the world? And how did you get started in, putting your entity together?
It's a great question, John. And one thing that I always teach, I get called and invited to speak in many masterminds around the world and private events where CEOs come together and influencers and people that they are on the big stages. And I tell everybody, we must reverse engineer the whole process. One of my superpowers is understanding human behavior. What does it make our ideal clients buy from us? What is it going to make? What is the silent Q&As right now that is keeping them up at night? What are the worst nightmares? So when you start reverse engineering, okay, where is that problem that you're solving? And how does that relate to your superpowers? And then you reverse engineer that business. Okay, what is that I want? I want to become a coach. I want to become a speaker. Okay, do you want to sell a $20 book? Or do you want to sell a $20,000 program? Because it will take a whole bunch of clients to sell a $20 book to get to $20,000. So the traditional business models, when it comes to marketing out there, they are outdated. Traditional marketing no longer work. So you must understand how to create a lure. You have to start thinking about, how do you create a lure? How do you stop somebody from scrolling to get in that goddamn moments where they're going to be scrolling down, they're going to stop? Because here's the thing, you're going against somebody's wedding. You're going against somebody's brother and sister's birthday. You're going against 60 billion plus messages going out on social media on a daily basis between advertising, outdoors, messenger texts. That's what you're going against. You're going against a whole bunch of people. They are tearing down my studio. They're doing some remodeling over here on this studio. But so that's what you're going against. So you have to start thinking about those things. How do you reverse engineer it? So you have to start thinking about, okay, pain points. When do I have my clients at hello? Which moment did they decide to purchase from me? So now you have to start thinking about, okay, how can I create systems that's going to allow me to scale this? Do I really want to do it like, be like everybody else? Do the $20 book, the $50 courses, the $500 an hour coaching, consulting, or let me start with the end in mind. I want to do the $20,000 programs, the $50,000 mastermind, the $30,000 retreats or boutique events. Because now it's much easier to reverse engineer and start it from there versus go with the convoluted sales funnels model that most gurus out there are teaching. That's what they do. You go online and they tell you, right, here's the funnel. And they on the top of that funnel, they have your book or ebook. Then they have a course. Then you have the $200 to $500 an hour coaching consulting. And then you have your mastermind or a high ticket. It's broken. Every layer of that funnel, you lose 70% of your followers, and they will never come back into your brand. So knowing that, why you're going to start with the model that's broken, why not flip it, the sales funnel process, and start with the highest ticket from the top? Your mastermind, your boutique events, your intensives, you can create like a one-on-one experience that they come to travel and spend a day or two with you when you dissect and break it down the entire business and put a plan in place. So that's how you want to start thinking different than everyone else, because that's what everybody else is being taught right now. And you want to do what others don't do, can't do, and will not think of doing. It's a whole nother way of looking at the influencer coaching and speaking business. Because from that place, when you do have an opportunity to talk now, you don't have to go and be promoting all the other stuff. Let everybody else do that. You establish yourself as that authority in your space by starting with the end in mind. And the way how you do it, you create, for example, 1 hour, or you create a 2-hour masterclass where you are teaching and giving so much value on videos, right? And then you go and you give that to your ideal avatars. Watch this video, watch this training, and after they are done, fill it up, this very well-taught questionnaire that's gonna ask a series of questions. And then at that point, you as a coach, as a speaker, you determine whether that person, it's somebody, you wanna gamify the whole process. So it's gamifiable. They watch you, they get to know you. Here's a strategic interview that they have to fill it up. So now you are able to be like, okay, this is somebody that I would love to work with. This is my avatar. This is somebody. If they go through these processes that you put in place, now you know that person is going to be way more likely to give you 20, 30, 40, 50,000. So now you only need 20 people per year to give you 50 grand to make $1 million versus looking at everybody else. Imagine you want to do events for like 1,000 people. You need a hotel, big staff. Imagine how many books you have to sell, John, just to make $1 million. Imagine how many hours of coaching and free coaching you have to do on the phone and on Zooms to get to $1 million. If you only charge a couple of $100 an hour. But if you have, hey, it's 20 grand, it's 30, it's 50, it's 100,000 to work with me. Okay, great. Now you're speaking with a certain type of person. So now when you are speaking, when you are talking, you're looking at that video, you're talking to that person, to their avatar. So you have to be very, very laser focused. Who are you talking to? What problem do you solve? What is keeping them awake in the night? What are their nightmares? Great. Now we have all this data. I like to call data mining. Now we can go and produce content that's going to speak to their silent Q&As. That's going to help you bypass that conscious mind that can only say yes, no, and maybe messages. That's what the conscious does. Like, for example, right now, somebody's watching me. They are judging me. Oh, I'm not in a suit. I'm not in a tie, because it's not the clothing. You know what I mean? I can talk about it like you couldn't read them, my resume. But what does that mean? It doesn't do no good. Oh, yeah, I sold over $1 billion in my lifetime. I have the receipts to prove it for Fortune 100 companies and coaches and consultants. But who cares? Is what is in it for the person listening right now.
Mhm.
So, you know what I mean? So it's like, instead of me telling you about my resume or you reading in my resume, it doesn't matter. It's don't tell me your dreams. Let me show it to you. Let me demonstrate it. And that's why I'm very effective at communicating and understanding the pain in the marketplace in over 120 different industries. So when I do get the call to come over and speak for that event, let's say you're going to do a mastermind and you want to sell, let's say, tickets for 30 grand to work with you. Then somebody like yourself would hire me to come over and speak for the group and help you close those deals, because I would amplify what you are doing. And then we would work strategically to make sure that we add so much value. And here's the price that you are paying for not hiring John and having him on your side. Does that make sense? So it's about being strategic. Like, what's his name? Shen Tzu from Art of War, right?
Mhm.
Tactics without strategy. I cannot remember the quote right now, but you gotta have the tactics without a strategy, is failure. You gotta be tactical, you gotta be ahead of the game, and you have to reverse engineering to do totally opposite from what everyone else is doing on social media, so that you can stand out apart from the crowd.
I love it, man. Well, look, I mean, in about a 7-minute rant there, you just gave a total masterclass of the mindset of going back and re-engineering it, right? So I'll tell you, it's really interesting being in your industry, right? Understanding how people create a business out of it. So why don't you let us know, like, what is it that really then, when you set these programs up and you re-engineer and you start to solve these things, how are you starting to think of it as a traditional business? So if you think about, is it that you have certain layers of, vendors, and do you start to put together a team? What are some techniques of starting your, get on more stages.com, or what are some of the ways that you set up Carlos Inspire Incorporated? What are some areas that you can share once you have these ideas, once you've concretely been understanding where you're going to go, where you put your efforts to really build a business?
So at the beginning, here's what I'm doing. Let's say, for example, somebody's fresh right now, has no, hasn't been in this game. Let's say the person is an executive, a CEO, a director, a VP, an HR person. They want to exit corporate and they want to become an influencer, a coach, a speaker. So that person, the first thing that you must to do is you must to understand how to build allure and build credibility. Because the fastest that you can build credibility, that's going to become profitability. So you must to understand, okay, how do I short the sales cycle? How do I shrink decades into years? You're going to have to put in the sweat equity. That's no other way around it. But now we're not going to have to wait decades. That's when I come in. We shrink decades into years, and based on your superpowers, years into months. But where the first step that I would focus on, if I would be starting right now fresh to become a successful speaker and coach and to get hired to speak more often and to be interviewed, I will focus on in getting on more stages. I will focus on, okay, here's my superpower. Here's what I'm great at. And I would reach out to as many as podcasters, TV show hosts, anybody that has a presence online that's doing any type of show, whether it's TV, podcast, clubhouse show, anything on Spotify, any vehicle in social media. I will reach out to that person and I say, look, I see that you're speaking about this topic. I love your podcast. I love your show. Here's one of my superpowers, and I can love to be interviewed, be on your show, and add massive value to your audience, because I can speak about this topic. And many show hosts out there, they are looking for people to come over and to showcase, even though they might even speak something similar, because they want their audience to hear from a different perspective. So then I would focus on, how do I get myself on more stages? And I would also focus on, how can I get more press done on me? Not that Google press that you go and pay somebody $100. No. Like high level press that whenever you talk to those reporters and you talk to the particular news media and you tell them your story, and now how can you get the real press, the credited news to now write a story about you, write a story about your journey of here's your dream to become this. And he's, I like to call, like, you go through the hero's journey, right? You've been struggling, and then you burned out, and you incorporate, and you want to leave, and you don't have no time with your family, and you want to leave that space because you once spoke, or you once changed this person's lives, and you enjoy coaching and speaking for others, and you want to be able to build that as a brand. So now you have this story, and you plug in the hero's journal story into an accredited news organization and have them write a press on you. So that press is very different than the typical press that you pay $100 on Google, because now that press is written so strategically, leveraging the hero's journey story. Because here's the thing, guys, whenever you guys are talking out there and you are speaking, you always want to use the framework of the hero's journey, struggling, go through the hard times, thinking that you got to something, and then you're struggling again, and then you meet that person, that can help you, get to that dream. You know what I mean? So you're going through, and so when you are talking, when you are teaching, you want to have that framework every time. For example, I'm a TV show producer, a podcast producer, and a movie producer. Every time my producer partners and friends, if they skip and don't use the hero's journey framework, they because they didn't use, because we are trained since we were children to learn through the hero's journey framework. So
Yeah.
when you have to think about those things. You have to think about the way how society is being programmed. Because if you walk away from that framework, now your sales is going to tank, your movie, your podcast, your show will tank. You see what I'm saying? So you have to think about this. Okay, am I using the hero's journey framework as I tell my stories? Is that being used as press is being written on my story? Because if you use that, and if you are strategic on how the press goes out, on being interviewed on the certain stages where you talk about your superpower, now that builds credibility, and you're able to get the foundation very fast. Because if you can get a press done on you, if you can get to be interviewed on a few podcasts and in 1 or 2 TV shows, now you can use that as an outbound marketing tool as you are having conversations and you're talking to corporations. So check this out. I was just interviewed on this show. Here's the link. Check this out. They just wrote this amazing press about my company, about my family, about my journey. And then you give them that link. So you use and leverage that as an outbound marketing tool. Because what that will do, that will build the foundation in the beginning that most people, they don't have, right? Most people, they are out there trying to, either do things for free, looking at things online and Google and going to Clubhouse and spending all day there, but that's not gonna build the credibility. That's not gonna get you the ideal clients to pick up the phone and like, you know what? I need to call John, I need to call Carlos. So you have to think about those things. How do I build credibility faster? And if I am teaching, am I using the hero's journey framework? You know what I mean? It's something that you really, really got to focus on doing. You want to get press as fast as possible to be written about you. You want to be reaching out to reporters, TV shows, podcast shows, show hosts, and establish a relationship with these people. Refer them people. They are looking for stories to share on their show. You see what I'm saying? Like say, for example, tomorrow it's 9/11. Today's what? 9/9. So in 2 days it's 9/11, right? So I overheard somebody talking about her cousin on another show, on the Clubhouse, and her cousin, she said, my cousin, she, for 20 years, she was on the top of the World Trade Center and she never shared this story. And only a few handful of people survived above the crash site. So she was one of those. And she never shared it. She was traumatic. And the share was so crazy that she ended up becoming a counselor herself, because there was no counselors back then, because America never went through that. Today, on this day, 20 years ago, I happened to be on the top of the World Trade Center, because the Brazilian independence is on September 7th. Every year we go to New York and we spend a few days there celebrating. Brazilian independence on September 7. So on September 9, 7, 8, 9, we were in New York, my friends and I. And then, what do you do when you're in New York? You go to the World Trade Center, you go to the State of Liberty, you go to all the cool places. So you go all the way on the top on the Twin Towers. There's a little coffee on the top and the beautiful view, having no idea that 2 days later, this thing is no longer going to be here. And I heard her story and I was like, wow, she never shared that story. I'm like, great. I called her. We had a great conversation. I'm going to do an exclusive story about you on my TV show. And she's like, oh my God, that would be so cool. Because again, she never shared it. And then I created a lore as I tell about her story. 18 years old and pregnant, walking down the stairs and the floor collapsed, ... Wow. And I stopped talking. You see what I'm saying? You create suspense. When you are sharing your show, you are sharing your story, you want to treat yourself like you are Netflix, like you leave them hanging. You want them coming back. So now I'm not going to tell you guys any more about it because it's going to be on my show, carlosinspireshow.com. Later on, you're going to watch the replay. And the only way to find out the end of this story and how the heck did she manage to get out of that building if the floor collapsed underneath her. So you see what I just did, right? I created suspense, I created curiosity, and now the viewer is gonna be like, damn, I need to watch this now. You see? So that's how I do things. I teach, but I pause it, and I always say, this is a teaching moment because I want you guys to really reflect on the things that I am talking about because this has been tested. Everything that I talk about is PCS, it's predictable, it's certain, and it's secure. Like I wish I would have 3 more hours over here to teach you guys all those things, but it's so much, elements that you have to think about, as you are establishing that foundation. But with our give you guys here today, it's enough to get your mind spinning and start applying those things on that foundation to separate you from the pack.
Well, look, Carlos, I mean, you put a lot of love into what you just shared, right? A lot of love, a lot of passion. And obviously going through some personal things with you're doing. It's incredible. Just the amount of give that you have, right? When you think about just how you've gone through your journey and gone through the business and developed different areas. You said, you're in the author space and the movie space and the podcast space and the, video arena space. It's incredible. When did you start to then think, all right, hey, Carlos Siqueira, like stud, but how did you start to then put a business entity together? Because I do want to go back to that a little bit. Obviously you're a one-man stud, but you have a team probably that really does a ton of things. So how did you start to think about, hey, who can I bring in that can help me in X or Y or Z, just to give us a little bit of a taste of your empire?
So the way how I think is this, let's say, for example, you're starting and you're applying some of the advice that I'm talking about, and you're going to start with the end in mind. And let's say, okay, Carlos, I don't want to charge 20, 30, 50 grand. I'm not comfortable doing that yet. But instead of me focusing on the $20 book, you're going to say, okay, I'm going to charge at least 10 grand. So once you get to a certain number of customers, let's say, 10 clients or 20 clients, that's your reach. That's like, once you get to 10 or 20, if you're charging them 10 grand a piece or 20 grand a piece, that's great income. But it's good. At that point, you have to start thinking about duplicating yourself and having people in place to now help you scaling, because now you're going to have to put systems in place. You're going to have systems you're going to have your executives. Like, for example, I have one person that handles social media. The other person handles my podcast. The other person handles my TV show. And then I have, other people that handle anything to do with editing and video. So you start plugging people in place as you are bringing income. Right now, I need you guys to focus on predominantly in income producing activities. Once you get your first 10 clients, now you're going to get busy. Now you're going to need help. Now you want to have, an executive assistant that handles everything social. You want to continue to have a daily presence everywhere. Like, people always, if somebody, your friends are not coming to you and saying, I see you everywhere, brother. If they're not saying that to you, it's not a good thing, So you want to be everywhere. Like when I do my show, I was talking to John before we hit the recording. We stream everywhere. We're on Facebook, we're on LinkedIn, we're on Periscope, on Twitch TV, on Twitter, we're on Clubhouse, everywhere. And then what I do, right after the live show is recorded, we delete the episode. So the only way they can watch the previous episodes is by going to carlosinspireshow.com, and listen on Apple, 5 stars, hundreds of reviews, one of Apple's top business podcasts. So they either have to go there to listen or to JD3 TV and watch on my TV show on the network. So you see what I'm saying? So you are everywhere, but you create that allure. But as you get into the, let's say 10 or 20, whatever is that number, you have to already in the back of your mind, okay, I got 3, 4, 5 clients. Okay, I need to make sure that I have an assistant. You cannot forget about social media. You don't want to be doing $5 to $10 an hour work when you are worth $1,000+ an hour. And you have to start having people in place to do those things. Some people I have clients that they are fancy, right? They want to go and find a manager and they find an agent, to go out there and to look for speaking gigs for them. Yes, it's going to cost you some money, for things like that. And even when you do that, it has to be a very strong relationship with the agent, with that person that's going to represent you, that manager. It has to be that bond. You know what I mean? Because if that bond is not there, and it's also going to be turbulence. You're going to hire people, like for example, right now, all the titans, I live in Silicon Valley, Facebook, Apple, Google, they spend hundreds of millions of dollars with employees, coming in and leaving. Yeah. You know what I mean? So retention, employee retention, that's a whole nother topic. So you want to make sure as you are getting more clients, you are building a family. Take care of your employees. Take care of your executive assistants. That person right there is going to save you so much time. And so that's going to, because you got to have that presence on social media. Somebody must you be in charge, must you be, replying back to your audience. You also never want to lose that touch. You want to constantly reply back to your audience. Your executive assistants will handle all the postings, checking your emails, making sure that everything that has to be addressed is done. Then you have the person that handles your videos and your editors. Then you have the person that's out there reaching out on your behalf to other shows, to other podcasters, to other TV shows, to other reporters. So you start putting people in place to do the $5 to $25 an hour work so that you can do what you do best, whether it's speaking, talking, teaching, coaching. So, and then you want to start thinking about putting systems in place as you grow and you bring in clients. You want to start teaching your clients to do what you do. So now you can give them clients to handle on your behalf. And then you guys split, you work a money percentage that they can now go and do what you just taught them. Start teaching and duplicating yourself, grouping people from one-on-one. You can only coach so many people one-on-one. You want to coach one too many, charge 20, 30, 40 grand. Okay, I'm going to group all of you together, 10 at a time. So that between that group of 10 CEOs, we're going to form a bond. Now I'm going to coach all the 10 of you together in that 1 to 2 hour framework, time frame, or I'm going to fly in, the 10 of you, spend 3 days with me. Now let's work on the business. You see what I'm saying? Because now you're putting systems in place that you can, instead of coaching one by one, you have several people at the same time with you, and you split them into groups. Don't try to do 50 in one group. No, do 10. Every time that you go more than 10, it's complicated. Because if you're traveling, you got to get, you want to take them to restaurants. You want to create an experience. You want to go have a great time with your clients. When you do too many people, his logistics is a mess, So you want to start thinking about those things. What makes you happy? Is it coaching one-to-one? Is it coaching one-to-many? You want to start, and then based on the answer to those questions, as you're getting more clients, now you start thinking about, okay, hiring and having people in place to help you do what you do best.
I love it. And I'll tell you, you said it earlier, we could probably spend 3 hours together talking about real strategy, really understanding the Go4CEO mindset. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already just gone to also probably stop this and start Googling Carlos Siqueira, like you need to go to getonmorestages.com. You need to go to carlosinspireshow.com. I mean, the guy's a stud and he's sharing with you some incredible, valuable information. So in the Go4Ceo channel, when we end our interviews, which we're about to do, is we talk about CEO, right? Client experience, employee engagement, and operational excellence. And you've kind of touched on all three already, and you've given a great gamut of it. And we do want to have you on in about 6 to 12 months to really kind of continue the journey with you. I know off of our recording here, we were talking about some big plans you have with South America and Central America and world domination. So can you share with us in about 30 seconds, what is a client experience for you? So like when people hire you and that's your client, right? What is it that you're trying to get to as far as the client experience? And then we'll go to employee engagement and operational excellence.
You know, the biggest thing when it comes to that, I apply something that I learned from my grandma, and you can never go wrong, John, which is treat every single person like you would treat your grandma. You know, with love, with respect, with sincerity. Don't leave nothing back. My worst fear in life is to, knowing that I'm going to be on a near-death situation, which happens a lot when I am traveling to Brazil and going to third world countries. I go on villages around the world and I like to teach kids in very impoverished areas. And I speak different languages. And I do to others what I wish it was done to me when I was poor, because my father died in a car explosion in an accident. I was a baby. My stepfather was murdered. I've been tortured and abused as a child. So whenever I'm talking to CEOs and athletes and celebrities, I tell them, so tell me about your problem again. And, it's perspective, so I told them, do not make me call a viuva negra, the black widow. That's what they call my mom, And then my mother and I, instead of crying, we laugh because we say, es melhor sorrir do que chorar. But if you just apply that aspect, every client, every relationship, somebody hands you cash, don't take that for granted. Treat them like a loved one, like your grandma. Give them 10 times the value that they just paid you, and walk the talk with them every step. Don't lie, don't cut corners. I get called to speak on masterminds sometimes, John, and people are like, Carlos, don't go too crazy on them, because I'm going to tell them, you're going to have to put in the time and the sweat equity. You're not going to make money overnight. And they're like, but just don't go too crazy. I'm like, so you're telling me, do you want me to lie? When I used to lie as a kid, I have to be on my knees for like 30 minutes. We know the corn that you feed the chicken.
Rice and corn, yeah.
You know what I mean? You know how it is, man, Central America, South America, hardcore. So I'm like, no, hell no. You're talking to me to go against my values and beliefs, things that I learned from my grandparents that raised me. And I always tell people like, no, if you just do that and you focus on and hold them accountability. You know what I mean? It's like I am hardcore military with my clients. I used to do something in the past where I would tell them, I ain't talking to you until you accomplish this task. And it's on the contract. I have them sign an executive summary, that is a little line in there that they understand this, because a lot of us, we don't have anybody that holds us accountable anymore. And nothing's more powerful than accountability and treating others like you would treat a loved one. If you just do those two things for your clients, they are raving fans for life, because their life will change. Because if you can solve a problem and if you know how to solve it faster than anybody else on earth, now, if you don't charge and if you don't talk about it, you're doing a discernment, because you know that you can help that person, and that's why, and with their alone, brother, you can never go wrong. Because now they know.
Well, I'll tell you what, I mean, each subject is at least a 5 to 10 minute, good in depth. Cause I think your wisdom, coming from where you came from, battling some of the things that are even just recently going on, your mindset is just so strong. It's very, very impressive, my brother. So, I will say is we're coming down to the nitty gritty here. So I do want to make sure I get these last two, because I'm always very cognizant that my audience, right? We really want to talk about client experience, employee engagement, and operational excellence, and then all the things that happen. So can you give us 30 seconds on employee engagement and then operational excellence?
All right. When it comes to employee engagement, you want it to be hardcore as well with accountability. Whether you want to use software and tools and systems, or where you can monitor and know what they are doing. The best thing that I love to do is I love to, first thing in the morning, at the end of the day, have that 15-minute, that team in the morning, that engagement, fire them up, talk about, the company, the visions and the goals for today. Every hour of the day, let's say if you are behind your goals, every hour of the day today is going to be income producing activities. Get on the call, make the calls, go for that no, go for the rejection. You're going to feel rejecting because you're going to feel like not making the calls, but you're going to dance through the no's and you're going to hold them accountable. How many calls are you doing today? Okay, I'm doing 100 calls. I'm doing 50 calls. How many are you going to close? You already get them to visualize it. Talking to that client, closing that sale, making that money, taking care of their honey. So the 15-minute daily call with your employees is huge. And then at the end of the day, another quick call as well to cheer them on. Even if they got 0, tomorrow you're going to be a hero. And you fire them up and you congratulate and you cheer them on. You become their greatest cheerleader. And when it comes to employee engagement, that's one of my biggest tips. Having that morning huddle and that night huddle, quick huddles, fire them up, set the day, because the way how you start your day is the way how you're going to finish. And you want to finish the day with, you want to wake up with determination and go to sleep with satisfaction because you took massive action.
Awesome, brother. Well, hey, man, look, you've dropped so many golden nuggets. Let's tell the audience just how the best ways to get involved with your community and what you're all about, and then we'll end at there. So what's the best way to get a hold of Carlos Siqueira's community and be involved with what you do?
I spend a whole lot of time on Instagram. If you go to just Carlos Inspire on Instagram, I'm constantly there. I spend a lot of time with my community on GetOnMoreStages.com, and so I spend a whole lot of time there. You guys can also always, email for my company, any speaking inquiries, business inquiries, just send us an email, info@carlosinspire.com. You always easy to get a hold of me. On my Instagram, underneath my profile bio, I have multiple links there that I'm always teaching. I'm adding so much value because I'm no longer taking like one-on-one clients because I get so many requests to speak. But I do speak. I go to companies paying me 50 to 100 grand to come in and speak for 1 to 2 hours for corporations. So I'm still speaking, but when it comes to one-on-one, it's like I literally refer clients to my previous clients. So, but if you guys want to keep up with the things that we are doing and the latest trends, Get On More Stages right now is my baby. I'm also helping people right now that don't have the connections to get their own TV show, to get their own podcast. I want to help giving a voice to the voiceless, connect the unconnected. That's my passion. I'm in a point in life where, I made an incredible amount of money. Now I want to help others get to share their message out there. And if that's you, reach out. Keep on following us on Instagram, email our company, and I can connect you with my team, and we can do incredible things together.
Well, Carlos is so amazing, ladies and gentlemen. Go4Ceo Channel. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Make sure you love and like this particular episode, and let him have some feedback. All right. Put some comments below and share with him what you thought about this incredible message, because every time I said 30 seconds, my man went 7 minutes on value. So thank you so much, Carlos. I really appreciate it. And we will have you on in the next 6 to 12 months. I really appreciate your time.
I'm looking forward, brother.